Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the Kansas City Chiefs at the Green Bay Packers in their Week 3 matchup, played September 28, 2015 on Monday Night Football. We're going to go over the scores and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis. Let's get started in the first quarter. About 5 minutes in, Aaron Rodgers hit Ty Montgomery for an 8-yard touchdown pass. Crosby added the extra point, and it was 7-0 Packers over the Chiefs. Then with a little over 2 minutes still left in the first, Aaron Rodgers hit Randall Cobb for a 3-yard touchdown. Crosby added the extra point, and it was 14-0 Green Bay over Kansas City. So that was the score after 1 quarter of play. Then in the second quarter, about 3 minutes in, 12 minutes before halftime, Jamaal Charles ran it in from 9 yards out. Santos added the extra point, and the Chiefs were on the scoreboard as they cut the Packers' lead to 7 with the score Green Bay 14, Kansas City 7. But then a little over 6 minutes left before halftime, Mason Crosby hit a 44-yard field goal, and that extended the Packers' lead to 10 with the score Green Bay 17, Kansas City 7. But then with less than a minute left before halftime, Aaron Rodgers hits James Jones for a 27-yard touchdown. Crosby added the extra point, and it was 24-7 with the Packers in the lead by 17 as this game went to halftime. And on that play there with James Jones, what had happened was there was an offsides against the Chiefs. The Packers took advantage of the free play as they were very heads up, and you got Jones in the end zone for that touchdown. And that would happen more than once in this game as the Packers were playing excellent football. So we look in the third quarter with a little over 7 minutes still left in the third. Aaron Rodgers hooked up with Randall Cobb for a 4-yard touchdown, their second connection of the game. This one made a 24-point lead for the Packers with the score 31-7 after Crosby added the extra point for the Packers. The Chiefs would then get into the end zone for the second time in this game with less than a minute left before the fourth, still in the third quarter. Alex Smith hit Jeremy Maclin for a 5-yard touchdown, and it was now 31-14 after the extra point by Santos. So that was the score after 3 quarters of play. Then in the fourth quarter, less than 3 minutes into the fourth, with a little over 12 minutes left to play in regulation, Aaron Rodgers hits Randall Cobb, and here comes Randall. He's a berserker. Randall Cobb's third touchdown of the game, a 4-yard touchdown pass by Aaron Rodgers, which was Aaron Rodgers' 5th touchdown of this game, and that made it 38-14 after Crosby added the extra point. So now at this point, this game was well out of hand. The Packers up by 24 points. But 2 minutes later, Jamaal Charles rushed for his second touchdown of the game, a 4-yard touchdown run. They elected to go for 2, and Alex Smith hit Travis Kelce, and the 2-point conversion was good. And so now it was a 16-point game with the score 38-22. The Packers still in the lead, as they were in the lead for the entire game. They never trailed at any point. But now it was a 2-score game because of the 2-point conversion. But the Chiefs would not get back into the end zone until about a minute and a half left. So with 90 seconds left, Jamaal Charles runs it in for a 7-yard touchdown. They went for 2 again, but this time they failed. And so it was a 10-point game with the score 38-28, Packers over the Chiefs as their late rally. I mean, it was really basically would be the final score. And really, the Packers just dominated this game. It was not anywhere near as close as the scoreboard may indicate. You see that it was a 10-point victory. It was much more than that. The Chiefs really couldn't get anything going until garbage time. I mean, even at halftime, it was already 24-7. I was pretty much like, this game is over at halftime. And then once they scored in the third quarter, it was 31-7. I mean, it was beyond over. And then that's when, you saw Jeremy Maclin started getting his numbers. Maclin wasn't doing nothing in the first half. It wasn't until the Packers had such a huge lead. Now they're backing off this thing. When you are playing with a lead, you are then going to allow more passing. Like, a team's going to start passing a lot because they're down by so much. And then the thing is, you just don't want to let up the big play, so you let up the little plays in front of you. So it's like you bring all the defenders back. So you're like, all right, just don't let them get the big one. just keep everything in front of you, because as they keep marching down the field, getting little first downs off these little pass plays, well, what happens is that eats up the clock, that eats up time, that just gets you closer to victory. That's what teams do. That's what the Packers were doing. That's the thing, too. When you go into halftime with a big lead, it's like, well, do you make the adjustments? Because if you make adjustments, it's like, well, what you're doing is working, but the other team is going to make adjustments. And that's why you see a lot of times, too, is that a team that might be up by a lot of points at halftime, all of a sudden they can't do what they were doing in the first half because the other team made the adjustments, and then they fall into this trap of just playing prevent. But the Packers, regardless, they didn't just sit on their laurels, as the saying goes. They scored 2 more touchdowns as Rodgers threw his 4th and 5th touchdowns in the 3rd and 4th quarters, respectively, both to Randall Cobb. So Aaron Rodgers, a phenomenal game. And these are 2 really good teams. Even, the Chiefs are 1-2, but they're better than that record indicates. And the Packers 3-0, they are that good. And teams that start the season 3-0 make the playoffs 75% of the time. And you have to believe the Packers definitely are on the right track towards winning their division. I don't really see anybody who's even close to competing with them in the NFC North. As I thought before the season, maybe the Lions, but you see what the Lions are doing. They're just shit the bed. Excuse the language, but the Vikings maybe give them some kind of challenge, but really, no. The Vikings, you seen what happened on Monday Night Football in Week 1. Yeah, they looked really strong the next couple weeks at home, but those are against, weaker opponents. So, I mean, once it's Minnesota, Green Bay, you'll see the Packers are going to destroy them. So, like I said, the Packers, at this point, I know it's early in the season, but really what they're, fighting for now is to just keep rolling along to get home field advantage for the playoffs. The playoffs are, anything can happen in football, but barring some catastrophic, crazy event, like, the Packers are well on their way towards repeating as NFC North champions and towards, the playoffs and making another run. And the Chiefs actually, they might have looked kind of bad in this game, but I don't think it was really so much that the Chiefs are bad. It's that the Packers are that good. Because the Chiefs have a really good defense, and Aaron Rodgers is just phenomenal. Aaron Rodgers is a joy to watch. He's in his prime. He's one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the position. I would say he's definitely up there in the argument. But let's look at the numbers. Aaron Rodgers, 24 for 35, 333 passing yards, 5 touchdowns. Alex Smith, 24 for 40, 290 passing yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Then we look at on the ground, Jamaal Charles, 11 for 49, 11 carries, 49 rushing yards, and 3 touchdowns on the ground. He also had 5 receptions for 33 yards, which gave him 82 total yards in the game. Eddie Lacy, 10 carries for 46 yards, which is an average of 4.6. James Starks, 11 carries for 32 yards. Rodgers also had 16 yards off of 2 carries to go along with his 333 passing yards. When we look at the receivers, it's a funny thing. They say Jeremy Maclin, 8 receptions for 141 yards and a touchdown. Technically, he was the leading receiver in the game, but that all came in garbage time. What does that even mean? It's like, it's fool's gold is what that is. Then we look at James Jones for the Packers. He was doing it in the first half and throughout the game. 7 receptions, 139 yards, and a touchdown. Randall Cobb, 7 receptions, 91 yards, 3 touchdowns. Eddie Lacy had 3 receptions for 41 yards to go along with his 46 yards, which gave him a total of 87 yards in the game. Starks, by the way, also had a catch for 19 yards, which added to his total of 32 rushing yards to make it 51 total yards for Starks. And we look at Travis Kelce on the other side, tight end for Kansas City, 6 catches for 80 yards. That was the thing, is that if you didn't watch the game, you might look at the stats and be fooled of thinking like, oh wow, Maclin had a big game, and oh wow, they only lost by 10. But it really was a utterly dominant performance by the Packers. They were just dominating the Chiefs. And the Chiefs are a really good, tough team. They've got a solid pass rush, but they couldn't get at Aaron Rodgers, really, because Aaron Rodgers is the most nimble quarterback you will ever see. This guy does not stand still. He has no problem getting out of the pocket, and that's when magic happens with Aaron Rodgers. as he is incredibly accurate. He's probably the most accurate quarterback on the run out of any quarterback that I've ever seen play the game. We look at the kicking. Crosby, 1 for 1 on the field goals, 5 for 5 on the extra points. Santos, 2 for 2 on the extra points. He did not attempt a field goal. Johnson was the leading tackler with 8 tackles for Kansas City. Shields had 6 tackles and an interception for the Packers. And they had a lot of sacks. Clay Matthews had 2 sacks. Perry had a sack. Thomas had a sack. Mike Daniels 1.5 sacks. Elliott had a sack. And Neal was in on that sack, the half sack, along with Mike Daniels when he had that 1.5. Perry forced the fumble. Daniels forced the fumble. I thought Mike Daniels was looking very impressive. He had a tremendous game. They were really putting the pressure on Alex Smith. Tamba Hali for the Chiefs did have a sack on their side. We look at the first downs in this game. 26 first downs for the Packers. 23 first downs for the Chiefs. We look at third downs. The Packers converted 4 of 11 for a 36% conversion rate. The Chiefs, 2 of 10, just converting 20% of their third downs. And that was something that really hurt them in this game, especially early on, was their inability to convert on third downs. They did go for it twice on fourth downs, and they made it both times. The Packers went for it once on fourth down, and they did not convert. Look at total net yards, 448 for the Packers, 326 for the Chiefs. Net rushing yards, 123 for Green Bay, 75 for Kansas City. Net passing yards, 325 for the Packers. Rodgers was sacked once for an 8-yard loss by Hali. And then we look at the Chiefs, 251 net passing yards, as Alex Smith was sacked a total of 7 times for a total loss of 39 yards. So usually it's Kansas City is the team you talk about with having that pass rush. Even a moment ago, I just mentioned they have a pretty good pass rush. And you could see they were putting the pressure on Rodgers. But Rodgers, under pressure, is like a piece of coal turning into a diamond. That is how he performs. And so, and on the other side, the Green Bay defense, take nothing away from them because they had a tremendous performance, especially in that first half. And even down the stretch, yeah, they did let up those points in the second half. They, I guess you could say made it somewhat interesting. But really, the game was well out of hand. Even, when it came to where it was like, oh, wow, it's now a 2-score game. They're down by 16 points. But realistically, Green Bay just dominated from start to finish in this game. Don't be fooled by the numbers if you didn't see the game. So then we look at the penalties. A lot of penalties in this game, and that was the thing that's very impressive about the Packers too, that they were able to overcome so many penalties, as they had 12 penalties for 89 yards. The Chiefs 7 for 39 yards. You gotta wonder if if they hadn't had those penalties, the game wouldn't have been even anywhere near as close as it ended up being on the scoreboard. Like I said, the scoreboard was not at all indicative of really what happened. Especially, you can almost just throw away the second half of this game, really, in terms of like what it meant. But you look at the red zone. The Chiefs are actually 4 for 4 in the red zone, so they did have success in the red zone. It was just a matter of getting into the red zone, which they struggled to do, especially early on in the game. Like I said, they weren't able to get down there until the second half. Now they're playing more of a prevent style. Now, and also they're getting these penalties. The Packers playing with such a big lead, it can be tough to not fall into a lull. But even still, they made the big plays they needed to make in the moments they needed to make them. But we also look at the red zone for the Packers. They're 4 for 5, 80%. And time of possession, 33 minutes and 30 seconds for the Packers, 26 minutes and 30 seconds for the Chiefs. It's a very impressive performance by the Packers against the Kansas City team that is a very good team. It's a team that has the talent, and it's got good coaches too. Andy Reid's a good coach. The Kansas City Chiefs, I'm not going to be surprised to see them in the playoffs. They've got an uphill battle ahead of them, being the Broncos are 3-0, they're 1-2, 2 games back. It's going to be tough for Kansas City, especially how they lost that game to Denver already. But they've definitely got the talent. one of the real aspects where they struggle is in their passing game. So, I mean, even though it was kind of, like I said, fool's gold, it was kind of like not really indicative of what their passing game is. It still was somewhat of a bright spot, I guess, for Chiefs fans to see Maclin get that, 141 yards and that touchdown in the second half. Even though, like I said, I mean, what do you really take away from that? I don't really take away too much from it. Because, like I said, that's been the weak spot of Kansas City, is that they can't get the ball to receivers, and they can't get the receivers in the end zone. That was what's funny is Mike Tirico, when Maclin scored the touchdown, he's like, "It's over! It's over! The Chiefs have finally thrown a touchdown to a receiver." I'm like, are you kidding me, dude? You're really going to start freaking out because Maclin caught a touchdown with 1 minute left in the third quarter? Like, there's only 16 minutes left in this game, and yeah, it's over. It was over at halftime. It was over when Randall Cobb caught that touchdown from Aaron Rodgers halfway through the third quarter that made it 31-7. I'm like, it's over. It's over. It's like, yeah, it's over. The drought of freaking the Chiefs not being able to get a receiver into the end zone. So, I mean, maybe that's something promising to look at, and we'll see moving forward if they can start to incorporate Maclin more into their offense. But, I mean, what does it really mean when, like I said, if you know anything about football, you know that, like, when a team's playing with such a huge lead, like, they don't, I mean, it's always best to play as if it's 0-0 all the time, but realistically, you know it's 31-7. At that point, like I say, you just have the safeties back the heck up, go play center field, make sure they don't get a big one. And, I mean, Kelsey even had that, like, 47-yard play after the penalty added on yards at the end of it that set up Jamaal Charles, touchdown. And, and that was even the thing is when you saw Jamaal Charles getting his touchdowns in the fourth quarter, man, he was just walking in. The Packers weren't even really hardly trying to stop him at that point. You know what I mean? Like, they had won the game a while ago. It was, like, just a matter of, like, yeah, let's just let this clock roll out and get out of here. I mean, if the Packers had just kept on rolling the way they were, I mean, it would have been a lot more ugly. But I really felt that, like, the outcome was never in doubt. The Packers led the whole entire game, and not at any moment did I ever think that the Chiefs really were threatening to take the win away from the Packers. The Packers, like I said, Aaron Rodgers was incredible. I mean, and he was facing a lot of pressure. They were getting up in there, getting in his face, forcing him out of the pocket. But Rodgers is just so amazing in his pocket presence and his ability to scramble, his ability to throw on the run and stretch the field. And I thought they did an incredible job. As always, I mean, that's Aaron Rodgers. That's what we've come to expect from him. But even still, it's nonetheless impressive. It's very impressive. He's having a phenomenal season, and he had an exceptionally great game right here. 5 touchdowns is always going to be one heck of a game. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. I hope you're having a good day and had a great weekend and enjoyed all the sports. And I just actually want to say that I apologize for the tardiness of this. I would have liked to have got this up earlier, but I got some stuff going on, outside of YouTube where I have a very busy week, and it might be a little bit tardy on the Thursday night game. I'm not sure how that's going to all work out, but I will get it up there, and then things should be back on track from then on out. And again, thank you for listening. It is appreciated.